and how is it going? My name is Vanessa Lau from vanessalau.co, and I help you hack your mind so that you can level up your life and be authentically you through personal branding and personal development tips. In today's video, we are going to talk about the 5 major lessons that I learned after graduating university. When I was in university, I had 2 major goals in mind. The first was to get an internship, and the second was to get a full-time job after university. Now that you've accomplished these 2 major life goals, the question that you probably have in mind is, what's next? Well, if you are a fresh graduate, please stick around to the end of this video where I reveal my number 1 lesson. And if you are an old graduate, make sure to still stick around, because who knows, maybe you might resonate with a lot of things that I'm saying, or you might be able to share your lessons to me in the comment section below. And of course, before I begin, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video every Wednesday. So without further ado, just keep on watching and of course, enjoy the video. One of the major lessons that I learned right after graduating is that it's okay to not be okay, and remember that success takes time. I know exactly what it's like to feel on top of the world after graduating, only to feel like you ain't shit. Seriously, only to graduate and realize that it's like first year again. You're literally at your new job, you don't know anything, and you're gonna make a ton of mistakes. Trust me, I think I am queen of making mistakes at work and in life. Remind yourself that this process is pretty much almost the same as your first year of high school, your first year of university. It is a phase in your life that you will get through and that a lot of people are going through. Remember to stay present and just be grateful that you've gotten this far and look forward to growing in the future. Now, the second lesson that I have is to ask questions. When you're a fresh graduate, I know what it feels like to feel intimidated, embarrassed, to ask questions because you don't want your intelligence to be questioned, or you're shy, or you just don't want people to think that you can't do it. But if there is a question that you cannot solve yourself, you need to speak up and be vulnerable, be humble, and ask that question. Because when you ask questions, people actually appreciate it a lot more, knowing that you're curious and you are making a conscious effort to make sure that you have the right answer. Another thing I have to mention is that when you ask questions, you're actually opening the door to opportunity to connect with others, whether that's your colleagues or your manager or strangers. By opening yourself up and being vulnerable and asking for help, you'll be amazed at the connections that you might potentially form. But beyond asking for on-the-job help, it's also important to ask questions and seek answers on topics surrounding life. Like I said earlier, when you first graduate, you're gonna feel extremely lost. That's why this is my 3rd lesson, which is to never stop learning. When you first step into this new world of adulthood, there's gonna be a lot of things that you don't have answers to, or that you're unsure of, or that you're frustrated about. That's why it's important to seek education in the form of podcasts, movies, documentaries, books, meeting up with strangers that are a couple steps ahead of you, or even friends that are a couple steps ahead of you. Because when you open your mind to accept new information, you'll be really surprised at the conclusions that you might come across. And remember, just because university ends doesn't mean that education has to end. Especially after spending 4 or 5 years in a narrow path of learning, you'll be surprised to know that there's so much more in this world that you don't know about. So by opening your mind to other perspectives, you're able to not only have more enriching conversations with other human beings, but also you'll find that you'll have a much more enriching life as well. Now on to lesson number 4, which is probably one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn, which is to know the difference between work and life. Because when you're a new grad, it's so easy for your work to really consume your life. And it makes sense. You're eager to please, you don't want to drop the ball, and you want to give your 150%. But not only that, especially for me, when I look back on why I worked super hard in my job, is because I thought that, hey, I worked really hard in my 4 years of university and I graduated and I got a full-time job. Which means that in order to achieve the things that I want to achieve at my job, I have to work hard as well. That is the science of success, is to work extremely hard, which is valid for some points, but you also have to remember that when you're in school, graduation is the end. But in life, graduation is when you die. And I really don't mean to sound morbid, but it is true. That's why you need to take a step back. I know that it's really hard and I struggled with it a lot, and sometimes I still struggle with it, but you just have to remember to be present and to practice as much self-care as possible and to make sure that your health is the #1 priority. And if you're lucky enough to have some close friends kicking around or family nearby, make sure to consciously unplug so that you can spend time with your loved ones. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to wake up and realize that all of your close relationships have really gone to dust because you were too focused with tunnel vision, focusing on things that at the end of the day don't really matter as much as you thought they did. Now on to my last and favorite all-time lesson, and that is, drumroll please, it is okay to change your mind, and it is okay to change your expectations. In university, we have so many expectations for ourselves. We expect to love our first job. We expect to keep the same friends. We expect to still be known for the go-getter, the marketing guru, the accountant, the athlete, etc. But know that this is an entirely new chapter in your life, and no one is keeping tabs on you anymore. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is so focused on their own shit that they don't have time to pay attention to yours. That's why it's important to know that it's okay if you don't like your first job. It's okay if you lose some friends. It's okay if you choose not to hang out with some friends. It's okay to change careers. Because what is important is that you don't let sunk cost bias change the way that you live your life. And what sunk cost bias essentially means is when you actually invest the time, the money, and the effort into something, and you become so attached to this investment that you actually stick to things that you no longer want to do. One of my all-time favorite quotes comes from the famous economist John Keynes, and this quote actually helped me get through this way of thinking and get past the sunk cost bias. John Keynes was once challenged a lot by people because they found that he kept changing his opinion. And to answer these complaints, this is what he said: when events change, I change my mind. What do you do? When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do? When the information changes, I alter my conclusions. What do you do? When someone persuades me that I am wrong, I change my mind. What do you do? I find this quote to be incredibly powerful because it's true. I know what it feels like to feel embarrassed to change your mind because you don't want to look like you're unsure of yourself or you don't want to look like a hypocrite. But give yourself some credit, because remember, you never know if you like something before you try it, and you are in a new phase in your life where everything is completely new and you're still trying to figure it out. That is why you need to give yourself the patience and the permission to test things, to learn things, and to pivot, to change when things aren't working out the way that you thought they were going to. Because just know that you are not locked into the decisions that you made in high school, you are not locked into the decisions that you made in university, and you definitely aren't locked into the decisions that you make today. So just remind yourself that you have the control to change something if it's not going the way that you thought it was. Give yourself that permission and give yourself that forgiveness. Those were the 5 major lessons that I learned after graduating, and I really hope that you found this video helpful. They're definitely the lessons that I wish I had at least a glimpse of before I started my first full-time job or before I stepped foot into real adulthood. But at the same time, I'm super grateful that I was able to learn these lessons on my own, because I truly believe that it's these hard lessons in life that make you closer to becoming the person that you really want to be. And as always, if you liked the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification button, and also the like button, so that I know that these are the types of videos that you want me to continue doing. And before I go, I also want to give a special shout out to my friends Claudia, Jennifer, Michaela, Katrina, and Emily for helping me come up with some of the lessons that you heard today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.